Nature puts on the brakes. Skydiving is a sport that many people enjoy, but it takes courage. When skydivers leap from planes, you might think that the constant pull of gravity would make them fall faster and faster until their parachutes opened and allowed them to glide safely back to Earth. But that's not quite what happens. At the beginning of a skydive, a diver's fall does speed up or accelerate rapidly. But as the diver falls, the acceleration continually decreases until the diver stops speeding up. The diver then falls at a constant velocity. Velocity is the speed at which an object is traveling in a single direction. In the case of a skydiver, down. The constant velocity that the skydiver reaches is called terminal velocity. It usually takes a skydiver about 10 seconds to reach terminal velocity. Forces on skydivers. It is the forces on skydivers that make them eventually reach terminal velocity. To the observer, gravity is the more obvious force. If gravity were the only force acting on skydivers, their velocity would continue to increase at a rate of 9.8 meters per second each second that they fall. 10 seconds into the fall, they would be moving 98 meters per second if gravity were the only force on them. As they continued to fall, they would continue to go faster and faster. But gravity isn't the only force on skydivers. Air friction, or drag, pushes up on their bodies as they fall through the air. Drag is another word for the force of friction between skydiver and the air. The force of gravity is constant, but drag increases with the skydiver's speed. As skydivers fall, they eventually reach the point where the size of the drag force equals the size of the force of gravity. The drag continues to push up, while gravity continues to pull down. But now the two forces counterbalance each other. As a result, the skydivers fall at a constant velocity, terminal velocity. Controlling terminal velocity. Skydivers can make their terminal velocity faster or slower by changing body position as they fall. For skydivers falling with their backs or stomachs parallel to Earth, terminal velocity is about 50 meters per second after 10 seconds. If skydivers were going head first, terminal velocity would reach twice that rate, or 100 meters per second. Why the difference? Because terminal velocity also depends on the surface area of the diver against which the air pushes during the fall. The greater the surface area, the greater the drag. The smaller the surface area, the less the drag and the faster the fall. To understand the comparison, think of swimmers. They feel much more resistance entering the water with a belly flop than with a nosedive. Falling at terminal velocity without a parachute is still too fast to land safely on the ground. So skydivers do need that parachute. Parachutes help slow skydivers even more by greatly increasing their surface area. Large parachutes are more powerful than small ones. The larger the parachute, the greater the air resistance on the diver, and the